Yo, 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 welcome to Crate 808, and today we've got one of the all-time elite architects of the hip-hop sound in the hot seat, a producer who helped Jay-Z sell water to a well while showing you how to live your life and breathe, a guy who's done been saying he's got now, he don't care who got next. Yes, he really did give the drummer some. Let me introduce the man right now. Oh boy, it's Just Blaze and the Blazettes in the house. How are you doing, Just Blaze?
I'm good. How are you, man?
I'm good, man. I'm good. Thank you for blessing us with your presence, man.
Thank you for having me. Much appreciated.
Point of call, we ask every guest when they come on, what's the least hip-hop thing you've done in the last 24 hours, man?
Help give the dog a bath.
Help give the dog a bath. Okay, that's hands-on. I like it.
Yeah, that would probably be it. We're not really going outside right now, so the dogs can't go to the groomers. So it's something we got to do ourselves here at the house, you know?
Yeah, man, I feel you for sure. How is life, man, in the house with the lockdown?
To be honest, it's no different for me. I don't leave the house anyway unless I have to. So, and I feel like that's a common thread with a lot of creatives. You know, a lot of people are having a hard time with it because they live their lives outside. We spend most of our times in our creative space. So for me, to be honest, it's not that different. The only difference is like when you're in your creative space and you're a technical person like I am, every once in a while there's something that you need. You know, there's a cable that you need or some kind of adapter or something for your laptop or whatever. And normally you can just jump in the car and run and get it, you know, or, you know, order it from Amazon and it'll be at your house either same day or the next day.
Yeah.
You know, that's where a lot of my frustration comes from. Like it's happened multiple times over the past, you know, few months or 2 months where it's like, oh, I need this USB-C cable. Let me go grab it. Oh, I can't. And even if I could leave the house, the stores are closed. You know what I mean? So even if I like took all precautions and like I could put on a hazmat suit, you know, and be completely sealed off. It doesn't matter because the Best Buy is closed. The B&H is closed. And Amazon, because they're so backed up, because so many people are living in the house now, you can't even get the guaranteed, you know, order within a, you know, like I said, you used to be able to get it within a day or so. You know, now it's like, oh, you might get it in a week.
If that's the case, then when I see your live sessions on IG at the moment, they are like the best wake up call, by the way. Like I wake up, yeah, I'm going to basically shower, get ready, dance my ass off. And then like, yeah, cool. Just play a session in the morning. Perfect. With this kind of thing with the technology right now, and it's like affecting your creative space with these live sessions, because I see you experimenting a lot on there and you're kind of trying to move to Twitch.
Yeah. You know what it is? I've been streaming things like this literally since like the mid 2000s, you know, back when it was a very foreign concept and people were confused as to why I was doing it. And my thing was always at that time wanting to give people an inside look at not just the creative process, but just studio life in general. You know, because when you live your life in the studio, you know, the experience is very different. So that was my thing back then. And to be honest, it's not that much different now. You know, I just like to share parts of my, parts of my life, parts of my creative process. The thing about it now is it's something that everybody's doing. You know, when I used to live in that space, you know, over a decade ago, I was literally at first, I was the only person doing it, and then there was just a small handful. You know, you fast forward 10, 15 years later, and technology has made it so that anybody can do the same thing from anywhere. So you kind of have to do something a little bit different to separate yourself. You know, I'm a pretty good DJ, I'm a pretty good selector, but you have superstar DJs and selectors doing this already. So my thing is, it's like I had to do something different to separate myself from what other folks are doing. So as I started doing this, I started incorporating, you know, overlays. Like when I first got on Instagram Live after my first, you know, two regular sets, you know, all of a sudden now I had overlays and graphics and people are like, how's he doing this on Instagram? Next thing you know, I had the direct feed with the audio. I was one of the first people to have the direct line of audio as opposed to just using my microphone from my phone or my iPad. And people are like, yo, how is he doing this? So, you know, for me, it was about pushing it forward. And eventually I pushed it so far forward that Instagram literally can't handle it. I'm not being funny when I say that. Physically, you know, Instagram was never designed to do what people are doing now. And now we're seeing the limitations of that, you know, from the image being cropped to the resolution being backwards, because it's made to be, Instagram is used to be made in portrait mode, whereas we need landscape mode. Audio conversion isn't as good. And I've always had a Twitch account. You know, I'm involved in the game world as well.
For sure, yeah.
So my thing was like, Twitch is designed to deliver the experience that I'm trying to give people. whereas Instagram isn't. So I'm still supporting Instagram Live because it's the biggest platform for things like this. But my mission at this point now is, while I'm still doing the Instagram thing, I'm trying to just, my core viewers is just, my thing is, if you head over to Twitch, you're going to see a difference. And what I've been doing is streaming to both at the same time. So sending the feed to Instagram and Twitch, so that if people are so inclined and they get curious, because I keep talking about it, they can just hop over to Twitch and see the same thing, and they see what they've been missing. And every time somebody does that, it's like, oh my God, why am I still on Instagram? For social networking, for social media, and for things like that, Instagram is still definitely the move. It's the most popular network, in my world. But Twitch delivers a far, far better experience. And there's no point in spending the time, effort, and a little bit of money to deliver this experience only to have it hampered by Instagram's constrictions. So, little by little, I've just been trying to get people to switch over just so they can really get to experience it. Like 2 nights ago, I did a virtual festival stage where they took my feed, and they there's no festivals happening right now. So all these people that build festival sets and build festival stages and manage festival visuals and whatnot, they're all out of work. So one company out in Austin called Inside, I think it was Inside Studios, or it's called Austin Inside, something like that. They took part of their warehouse and converted it to a virtual festival stage so that people can beam their visuals to this stage, to the LED walls on the stage, and they have full on lighting, lasers. It's literally a festival stage, but it's private. People can log in via Twitch or via Facebook Live and watch this performance as if I was actually on a festival stage. It was the first thing of its kind that I've seen. It looked amazing. But again, just going back to what your original question, it's not something that Instagram can deliver, unfortunately.
Yeah, man, absolutely feel you. You're the kind of gateway to Twitch for me. I've got a lot of gamers in my midst, and I just think I never really need to go on there. Bang, soon as you're like you said, with the overlays and the graphics in the back, it's some trippy shit, man. I'm like, wow, this is amazing. Right. And it completely emphasizes the music. Absolutely, man.
Totally. I'm just trying to give people an experience while they're stuck in the house.
Yeah, man. And we're grateful, man. We're definitely grateful for all them hours you're putting in, man, off your own back. If you're talking about their experiences, though, obviously the Verzuz battles, everyone's talking about these at the moment. What's your feeling on those? And is there any matchups you'd like to see, or would you like to get involved?
I mean, I was kind of involved from the beginning. A lot of this all started from when me and Swizz did an Instagram Live battle a couple of years ago.
That was heavy.
You know what I mean? So I kind of feel like I put my time in to that already. I kind of helped spark that flame with him. So that aside, it has been great. I think culturally, when would you ever expect to see, Premier and RZA going back and forth?
Yeah, man.
Or even something like Scott Storch and Manny Fresh, or T-Pain and Lil Jon. It's something that what's the saying? When life gives you lemons, you make lemonade.
That's it.
And that's kind of what we're seeing right now. And but the level that it's being done at has been amazing. I'm not really a competitive person myself, so there's not a particular person that I'm like, I need to go up against him. That's not really how my brain works. I have been asked to be involved, and we are talking. But I think for me, it's a matter of finding the right person. I don't want to say to go up against, but the right person to showcase with. Because for me, my thing is, if I do it, I'm not going up against anybody. We're giving a good show. Me and Alchemist toured off of something very similar for a couple of years.
I saw that. Yeah.
We did a couple of dates out there in the UK. We did a bunch of dates all through Europe, and only a couple of dates here in the States. I think at the time in the States, people weren't ready for something like that. So we didn't do a bunch of shows in the States. I think maybe did 3. But the way me and Al did it, it's billed as, me versus him. But really, it was a celebration, which most of the versus battles are as well.
Oh, absolutely.
But because we were live, we were able to do things like, when Al goes to rhyme, I'm DJing for him. When I'm doing certain routines, he's my hype man. You know what I mean? So it's like we're going up against each other, but we're really supporting each other. And to me, that was the most fun thing about it, was just giving the people an experience, as opposed to, I got to take you out. I'm not here to take anybody out. I'm not, I don't really, I don't have any kind of a bone in my body that wants to go against somebody and make it a real thing. So that's kind of why I'm waiting. You know, we've been talking, but we're trying to find the right matchup that makes sense, because you don't want it to be a thing where it's in one person's favor versus another too much as well. You know, like there's some people that have been brought up to me or that I suggested who I like, and they're like, yeah, but that person doesn't have as many big records as you, so you're going to watch them. You know what I mean? I'm kind of like in that middle ground where I have a lot of anthems.
Huge. Yeah.
But many of them still have an underground sensibility. And, you know, that's a hard thing to match up. You know, obviously me and Al would be dope, but me and Al have done it like literally over 50 times.
Yeah.
So, you know,
you say you've done it over 50 times, but I think there's people out there who just haven't seen it though.
No. This is definitely true. This is definitely true. Like for the thousands of people who did, there are hundreds of thousands who haven't.
And that's the platforms. Yeah, the platform can take you there, right? It can.
Exactly. So, you know, like I said, we're you know, me and Swizz are in touch, and we're trying to figure out, you know, the timing of it for one, and just who makes the most sense to match up with.
Yeah, I feel that, man. Because just you talking there, and every interview I kind of see you in, and when you're talking and stuff, there's a difference between yourself and an artist I can't connect with. With you, and I mean this in the nicest way, you're like the nerd out rapper that DJ and, you know, and producer that I love. And those artists I always connect with because, I don't know, the way you're talking about it now, you're coming from a fan's perspective. When I see Premier and RZA, yeah, you joke about the points and the rounds and all that. But ideally, all you want to do is sit there and see two men give you like the commentary to the soundtrack to your life. Do you know what I mean?
Exactly.
And that's what I'm feeling with you, but with yourself and your sound. And I mean, I could ask you, we could sit here for hours and just talk about your career. But one of the things I've always wanted to ask you is, you've called your music like a lot of different things, but one of the things that really stuck with me was an interview you gave, and you said you called it unnecessarily epic.
Right. Yeah.
I thought
it's you know what it is? I grew up. I watched a lot of movies growing up. You know, I'm a very big movie person, especially the movies that I grew up on. And you take things like Terminator, RoboCop, Star Wars, Predator. Those are some of my all-time favorite movies off the top of my head. It's not the top movies, but it's just off the top of my head. But one thing that a lot of those movies have in common, Conan the Barbarian is another one. They just had these big epic scores. And even as a very young kid back then, before I was DJing or anything like that, I always had this idea to be honest, I always wanted to make music for movies. Like as a kid, I used to listen to John Williams and be like, that's what I want to do.
Yeah, man.
You know, I'd listen to Danny Elfman and be like, that's what I want to do. You know, Danny Elfman's Batman score. That's another one. You know, so I think how that has translated into my music, a lot of that unnecessary epicness is really coming from my love of movie scores, the big epic movie scores. And then also, to be honest, even, you know, around that same time, you know, like, or a little bit later, you know, like early 90s, I used to DJ, I used to spin a lot of rave music.
I know, man. You're into your house, yeah.
Yeah, I used to spin a lot of rave music, a lot of early UK rave, a lot of Dutch rave, early breakbeat stuff, early drum and bass. So I think also, you know, the way those records, just the sound of those records and the way they're structured and the way they build up really big and then drop and then build up really big and drop again. I think a lot of that is left over in my hip hop, or it has influenced my hip hop production as well. And it was never a conscious decision. I was just doing what I felt should be done. But when I look back on the last, you know, 15, 20 years, and you do these retrospective shows where you go through your catalog and whatnot, and you see the way that music affects people and the energy that it gives people, even though some of these records some of these people that are listening or watching, you know, may have barely been born when these records came out. They might have been like 3-4 years old.
Yeah, man.
But a lot of those records have stood the test of time, because of the quality of the records, obviously, but also because of the energy that's in them. So yeah, all that early, you know, rave stuff that I was playing, combined with the fact that I was watching all these movies with these amazing scores, that stuff is just as much of an influence on me as, say, a Rick Rubin or a Larry Smith or a RZA or Marley Marl or anything like that. You know, I'm really just my music is really just a product of everything that I grew up on.
That's interesting, because that ties into what I was thinking. I saw you do a rhythm roulette on Mass Appeal, and you said, like, when you were making beats, it was like different personalities of yourself were coming out. And I think it kind of relates a little bit to that, right?
Yeah, no, totally. You know, it's like, you have all these ideas in your head, and you're like, oh, you can flip it this way, you can flip it that way, or you can do this and you can do that. And they're all like fighting in your head, and you kind of just have to, the same way you have to tune people out sometimes, you have to tune out a lot of those ideas and just focus on the one that makes sense in that moment. Otherwise you'll be sitting there, working on a track for days and trying a bunch of different variations and never settling on anything.
Yeah.
So, for me, it's really just about, isolating something that I love, concentrating on that, and trying to see it through. And that's a hard thing for me because, like I said, I will hear the same sample or the same idea or the same melody 10 different ways,
Hey, yo, this your boy Foul March, and right now, you are rocking live with the Crate 808 podcast. Enjoy this week's episode, and just remember to subscribe and rate and review. Peace.
And your sensibilities come from, this is a 90s hip-hop podcast. We always talk about the eclectic nature of that decade, especially this genre. And you just seem to have spawned out of there and carried it into the next millennium. And when yourself being one of them pioneers that does that, if you look back at the 90s, though, what lessons do you think we could learn from that era today? Is there any key lessons, or do you think they've been learned?
I think, to be honest, I don't know if I can necessarily say lessons, but what I will say is this. One of the main things that we had in the 90s, we had a lot of diversity at a high level. And what I mean by at a high level is we have diversity now, but the commercial landscape isn't necessarily reflective of that diversity. Whereas, if you go back to the 90s, you could have an act, and I'm just spitballing. I'm not, this is not an exact list or anything like that. But, you could have a Redman, and a Hammer and a Tribe Called Quest and, a Kwame, and they all be successful in their lanes and all do well and be supported by their relative infrastructures in terms of their record labels in the same manner. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. And that's what I mean by diversity. Whereas these days, you still have a wide range or diverse range of artists that are making music, but the scope is a lot more focused on one particular sound and style now. Whereas before it was, I think diversity was celebrated a bit more. So when you did get certain collaborations between two artists that didn't make sense or that you wouldn't expect to see together, it was more of a oh wow, I don't believe they made a record together. You know what I mean? Yeah, like Cypress Hill and Fugees on a Q-Tip beat. You know what I mean? What's the 2020 version of that? I can't think of anything. You know what I mean? And I feel like that is the one thing that I miss. I'm not the kind of person, some people, they get to a certain age and they're like, oh, they don't make music like they used to, or it doesn't sound the same. And the honest truth is it shouldn't sound the same. Exactly. It should evolve. It should get pushed forward, and it should change over time. So I don't necessarily miss that 90s sound because I can go back to it whenever I want. That's the beauty of having music. It doesn't expire. It doesn't have an expiration date. You want to hear something old, you go and play it. Yeah. You go into your iTunes, your Spotify, or whatever. I just wish that the diversity, what's happening in the musical space right now, was celebrated on a higher level than it is right now.
Yeah, I feel that, definitely. If you're looking at the 90s and thinking, do you know what? There were so many amazing studio sessions, I'm sure, in that decade. If you could have been a fly on the wall on any 90s studio
before you get into that, that's the other thing that I want to say, is that when you talk about collaboration, which in essence, for the most part, 95% of music is collaborative. There's very few artists that are making their own beats, playing their own instruments, writing their own songs, performing their own songs. You know what I mean? That's rare. So the difference between 90s and even early 2000s studio sessions versus now is everybody's emailing everything back and forth. The collaborations are virtual. And I think the other thing that's missing from the creative process is having all the collaborators in the same room, because they had to be in the same room. You know what I mean? Like, people were recording to tape. They weren't recording. They weren't shooting files back and forth. It was a big deal and a security risk to mail these gigantic, tapes, magnetic tapes back and forth. You know what I mean?
For sure.
So for the most part, it was like, all right, we're going to fly you out to New York, or we're going to fly you to LA, or you're coming to Nashville, or you're coming to Chicago, or you're going to London or Paris or whatever, but we're all going to be in the same room making this record. And when there's travel involved, most people are not going to just fly in for that one session and leave. It's probably going to be a week's worth of sessions booked to get the most out of that trip. So I say all that to say there's a different energy when all the collaborators are in the room as opposed to just files being mailed back and forth. I mean, imagine RZA trying to make Enter the Wu Tang, emailing files.
Exactly.
You know, it's not going to happen.
Yeah. I feel you, man. I feel you. So what do you think then about that? If there was a session, you could have been a fly on the wall just to observe which one and why.
To be honest, going back to what we were just saying, it would probably be the Enter the Wu Tang sessions at Firehouse, only because what RZA was doing was so unorthodox, not just in terms of the production, but in terms of how he was putting the music together. There's all these little mistakes that you hear throughout the albums, especially the early ones when things were less polished.
Yeah. But
those mistakes become part of the sound. So it's kind of like, I would just love to have experience like, at what point did they realize that this was a mistake and not care, or it was a mistake that they couldn't fix and they said, all right, well, we're just going to have to let it go as it is.
Has that happened for you, though? Has that happened in, like, when you're working with Jay-Z, or if you're working with whoever you're working with? Has there been a time when you've been like, I'm not 100% on that, but then it actually goes out and you're like, wow, that actually made it better?
I wouldn't say so much that there were mistakes that I made. I'm sure there are. What I will say is there are a lot of records that I've done, or quite a good amount of records that I've done, that weren't intended for the artist that I gave it to, and they ended up becoming huge records. So like for example, like Oh Boy was originally made with Memphis Bleek in mind. Bleek didn't take it. He didn't like it. Jay was going to do it, but just never went back to it because he wasn't recording at the time. And Cam got his hands on it. And, him and Jewels helped make it a hit. Had it landed where I originally intended it, like with Bleek, or maybe even with Jay, it wouldn't have been the same record, so it might not have had the same impact. I originally made Girls, Girls, Girls for Ghostface Killer.
Oh, man, imagine that mix. Oof.
Right now, see, that it could have been amazing, but we don't know. You know what I mean? But what we do know is that Girls, Girls, Girls ended up being a huge record for Jay. So for me, it's more so a lot of those stories where this record was meant for this person, it went somewhere else, but you know what? It sold 1 million records when it landed where it was supposed to. Pump It Up was originally made for Freeway and Beanie Siegel.
Yeah, I heard that.
Yeah, so it's one of those, and I can talk about those all day, but I think for me, it's not so much certain mistakes that I made in the studio as opposed to making a record with one particular artist in mind and them turning it down and it becoming a hit elsewhere.
Yeah, that's the serendipity, man. And just a bit calmer, isn't it? Always these things kind of work out. I love that.
Yo, what up, y'all? This is DJ Premier, and you're checking out the Crates 808 podcast. I put an S on it because there's more than one record in the crate, you know what I'm saying? So that's how we dig, that's how we play, and that's what real DJs do. You heard? That's why it goes down. We out here.
So if you could just bear with me for a second, I'd like to play just a little game with you, very quick game, because I looked at your catalogue and I was like, Jesus Christ, man, like where do you start here? So I thought, I'm going to list some just absolute anthemic Just Blaze tracks. And if you could just describe them in one word to me, that would be amazing. I know that's taxing a little bit, but if you could bear with me, let's go for it, yeah? So, first up, Welcome to New York City.
Wow, hold on. It's so funny that you said that. I swear to God, I just opened up a text message.
Yeah.
From somebody, a good friend of mine. His name is Sean C. He was an A&R at Loud Records. And he literally just texted me right now as you said that, asking if I had the files for Welcome to New York City for a movie, because he's working on a movie scene and he wants to use some of the parts for the score for this movie. That's crazy.
That is mad. Oh, well, wow. There you go. That's the universe talking to us.
It really is. It really is. So what was your question?
So one word to sum up that banger. What would you go with?
Ooh, anthem.
Anthem. Love it. You Don't Know.
Intensity.
Big. I like that. Breathe.
Drama.
Okay. Public service announcement.
Enthrallment.
Oh, these are good. I'm testing your vocab here. I like this. Exhibit C.
It's not a word. It's a phrase. Paradigm shifter.
Oh, that absolutely was that.
And I say that because up at that point in 2010, 2011, there was no what we would call traditional hip hop really being played on the radio during the day, like not during DJ Mix Show, but like 2 p.m. in the afternoon, Here comes this record, 79 BPM, great rhymes, good rhymes, no hook, catchphrase, no nothing. It was just a great song. And that's why I call it a paradigm shifter, because all of a sudden there was a newfound focus on lyricism, production, and traditional, or what we would call traditional hip hop for the first time on mainstream radio in a lot of markets in a very long time.
And you know what? And that's the thing. Coming as a 90s head, I'm very forward thinking. I accept a lot of different genres as well. But that track, and when you dropped those two with Jay, it was like we all came out the woodwork again. We'd all left the kind of, we were into the culture, but the music, we kind of just went backwards more. But bang, when that came, everyone had license to listen to new shit, and bang, love it. But before we talk about Jay Electronica though, man, I have to ask you, I've got you on here, that new album, what's your thoughts? What's your thoughts on Jay's debut album?
Oh, it was good. It was really good. I mean, how many people can say that they have, Jay-Z as their partner, on their debut album? I think, it worked out. I think they both inspired each other, and it ended up working out really well. It's a shame that it came out right as the virus, started to hit, because so they couldn't really support it the way I'm sure they would have liked to.
Yeah.
Which I kind of feel definitely hurt the impact of it. Regardless, there's some great rhymes on there, some great production. I'm proud of Jay. The fact that he was able to pull it off after so many years of going back and forth, and 1 second he's hyped to do it, the next second he doesn't feel like doing it. Then he records, then he retools it, and I think something finally struck him where he was like, I got it, I know what I want to do. It's a great album. I'm super proud of it.
That's good, man. Was there a call to you? Was there any beats that you could have done there for him? Because I'm not gonna lie, just as a fan, I was quite surprised I didn't see you on the credits there. But is there any that you had there for him?
No, we worked mostly on the previous one, which was Act 2, and that was pretty much completed. But then I think maybe he fell out of love with it. I don't know. Maybe he wants to do something else with it later. I did get the call, once he was going in on the current one, but schedule wise and time wise, it just didn't line up for me.
Before we go any further, though, I just wanted to ask one other thing. We usually ask everyone on here about their top 5 MCs. And I know that question can get people running away. But for you, I would just want to know, just musically, what's your top 5 producers?
I don't have a top anything.
No lists.
No, I don't do lists, because I feel one way this second. I may feel something. I may feel a different way in an hour.
For sure.
I may forget somebody. It's easier for me to just not do them, to be honest. Because you know what? There's never going to be a best at anything for one. I can turn around and say, I'm just going to use a random example, right? Like, I can turn around and say something like Shy Skills. Shy Skills was the producer behind the Onyx first album, right?
Yes, yeah.
I could put his name in there, and then people look at me like I'm crazy, because most people have never even heard of him.
Yeah.
But for me, the production on that album was a huge influence. Or you could say, like, for example, like, there could be a person who produced one dope record and disappeared, but that record was hugely influential for me. That might have been more influential on me than another producer who made, 20 classics. You know what I mean? So it's kind of like, for me, it's just like, yo, I don't care if I'm on anybody's list, as long as you acknowledge that I've, hopefully acknowledge and agree that I've made some great music. As long as you feel that way about me, great. You don't have to rank me. Just respect me, and that's it.
See, man, I love that. You're that kind of guy that in the corner, you're the sensible one in like a hip hop crew. Most hip hop crews I know just bang on about lists, and that's why you're the guy that in the corner is like, you guys are just like, you need to chill out. so I enjoyed that.
You know what it is? I'm a fan of too much. I love too much, and I've been influenced by too much. And I feel like I'd be disrespecting my influences if I tried to narrow them down.
For sure.
And put them in a box. You know what I mean? So I love everyone that's made great music and, that's had an impact on me. And I leave it at that.
Fair, man. So, man, before we leave you, though, mate, there's a few things that we do ask every guest that comes on. We have a playlist of Wu-Tang, Slept-On Wu Tang Bangers.
Okay.
They brought so much music out over the decades. There's bound to be some tracks that are slept on. So what do you think in their catalogue needs a bit more love? Be a record, an album, or even just a track or something like that?
I can tell you this, probably my favorite, or one of my all-time favorite Wu-Tang records that nobody ever talks about is Black Jesus on Iron Man.
Man, I Feel You, Just Blaze. Yes, that is a banger.
Yeah, that's one of my all-time favorites. I think I played it on a stream like 2 or 3 days ago, and I played it like 2 or 3 times in a row.
Yeah,
I love that record, man. That there's that. There's another one on Cuban Links that I can't remember the name of. I remember the rhyme, I remember the beat, I just can't remember what it's called.
It wasn't like Ice Water or Spot Rushers, something like that, no?
It might have been Spot Rushers. Hold on, let me look. Hold on a minute.
Yeah, no worries, man. That album is dense and it's incredible. I don't even look at the track names on that album anymore. I just listen to it. It's back-to-back classic.
Give me 1 second. I'm going to find this now.
No worries, man.
Spot Rushers.
Spot Rushers.
Yes.
Now you know I need to hear this on one of your streams. Next time you stream me, drop that down, man.
Definitely, yeah.
Love that. Okay, yeah, they'll be going on. I love Spot Rushers myself, so wicked, mate. Brilliant. So before anything else, though, the other thing I wanted to ask, what's next in your journey, man? In your creative journey? I know you've got food, you're a father, you've got so many things on the go all the time. What's next?
I mean, right. One of the next things we have is, we're revamping. I'm a partner in a line of restaurants out here, and we're revamping. We had to obviously close down the restaurants for obvious reasons. So we're revamping the entire model, at least for now, until this all blows over, into a nonprofit.
Right. Oh, that's amazing.
So we're doing a lot of community feeding. Like we gave away 15,000 meals over the course of a couple of days because when we shut down the restaurants, it's like, all right, we have to get rid of the food. Not just going to throw it out, and it's too much to freeze. So we just made it a community thing, and gave out a bunch to obviously to the employees first because they need to eat. And then from there, we went to other people who were affected in that business. So like the nightlife community. So people who worked in bars, people who worked in nightclubs, restaurants that had to shut down. We kind of made it a community thing, gave food to them as well. And then we just opened it up to the general public. Like, first come, first serve. Please be mindful of those who really need it, as opposed to those who just want it. And we did that. And now we're in the midst of revamping the restaurants as nonprofits to continue helping the community. I want to continue to develop this streaming thing. This is something that I've kind of always wanted to do. And now I've kind of been put in a situation where I have the time to do it. I have so many interests outside of music, such as technology, clothing, fashion, shoes, biking. I have so many various hobbies. Part of the other reason why I went to the extent that I did of setting up the streaming the way that I did is so that, it kind of provides me with a little bit of an outlet to discuss these things, at my leisure. So if I want to do a stream where it's all music, great. If I want to do a stream where I'm talking about, the history of BMX biking, then we can do it. You know what I mean? So for me, it's just kind of creating this new hub. It's not just for me. Don't get me wrong. Part of it is therapeutic for me, but it's also there's in my journey through life in general. 2 things that I've realized is a lot of us producers pretty much grew up the same way and have very similar interests. And I feel like there's a lot of common threads that have led us to pursue the careers and livelihoods that we have had. And that's not something that you would know unless you're like, actually spending time with these different people and having these conversations with them. And at the same time, a lot of my fan base obviously is aspiring producers, aspiring artists. And we would have these conversations, in my travels, I'll have conversations with these people. And again, a lot of the same common interests. And one thing that I always get back from these conversations is, thank you, because you're one of the only people out there in this game who I can identify with on that level. Like, like growing up with one foot in the outside world, but another foot, I don't want to say one foot in the street and one foot in the house, but it was kind of like that, where, I experienced life on the outside and, and what it was like in the street, but I also was collecting Transformers and whatnot. You know what I mean? Even as a kid, so it's like, I've always held on to the way I grew up and the things that I grew up with, because to me, that's what made me who I am. So it's not like, for example, I grew up collecting records. I grew up collecting music equipment, grew up collecting bikes. I grew up collecting, things like rare Transformers and other rare collectible toy items. You fast forward 30 years later, a lot of those interests are still my interests. And there's a lot of people like that. And, there's very few people in the position that I'm in who can genuinely relate to and identify with that lifestyle. So I feel like this is an opportunity for me to kind of put that network together of hip hop kids who kind of grew up a little bit different, if that makes sense.
Yeah, definitely. So before that, I need to ask then, if we're talking about Transformers, I just watched the movie again, the animated movie, that back in the day, Transformers the movie.
Yeah, 86. Yeah, 86.
Man, that score, that.
I was just about to say, as you were bringing that up, it reminded me. That's another score that I loved growing up. That was Vince DiCola, who also did Rocky IV, which is another soundtrack that I remember. Bill Conti did Rocky, I think 1, 2, and 3.
Yeah.
And then Vince DiCola did 4 around the same time that he did that Transformer score. If you listen to the Rocky IV score and listen to the Transformer 86 score, it's a lot of the same feel and same sound. But that sound, Vince's sound in the mid 80s was beyond iconic to me. Funny enough, one of the first major placements I ever had, and the record never actually came out, but it got me in the door with Foxy Brown. I sampled one of Vince's themes from Rocky IV.
No way. Which theme?
The song is called War.
Okay.
It's the main theme from when he's fighting Drago at the end.
Oh snap! Iconic theme.
Yeah. So big respect to Vince DiCola as well.
Yeah, man. You got to sample No Easy Way Out now. You got to somehow work that in, because that track, boy. Anytime there's a montage like that for pretty much no reason, Rocky could have just walked out. Nah, we need a montage, mate. And man. Just quickly tell me then, if you're not going to power rank me your producers, please power rank me your Transformers. You got to give me that.
I would say my prized possession, and probably my all-time favorite, I have the original, before Megatron was called Megatron, before they were called Transformers. They were the Diaclone Micro Change from Japan.
Yeah.
I have an unopened, still in the box, Megatron from like 1975.
Holy shit.
And this was the version that actually shot plastic bullets.
Oh my days. Nice.
Yeah. So like that's probably my all-time favorite. And then if you fast forward to current day, Takara and Hasbro do a thing called the Masterpiece, where they remake the original toys but with modern design.
Nice.
Same exact figure. Like they're not updating the look. They just look a lot more. Put it this way: it's the Transformers you always wanted as a kid. You know, like you see Optimus Prime in the cartoon, and you get the toy, and it wasn't really the same.
Yeah.
It looked close enough, but it wasn't the same thing. They weren't really posable. They couldn't really move like that. With the Masterpiece line, and they're expensive. They go for like $150 to $200 each, but they look exactly like the card. They look better than the cartoon.
Damn.
Like you just have to Google. If you Google Masterpiece Megatron, you'll see what I mean. It's the Transformer you always wanted as a kid. So to me, the original Diaclone Megatron, and then fast forward to now, the Masterpiece Megatron, the current one, is amazing.
Bro, I'm here for... Do you know what you should do with the streams? I'm sorry to keep giving you this moronic advice. You don't need any of this, but do a Twitch stream where you just geek out. I would watch that all day, bro. That might take
We're actually... So funny that you mentioned that. That is something I'm going to do. A friend of mine by the name of I Destroy, he does a series on IG Live where people show off their collectibles and their rare items. So I'm already in the process of pulling some stuff out. So being that I'm already going to have this stuff out for his show, I'll probably do like an extended Twitch stream with all that as well.
Big up, bro. Definitely. I'm here for all of that. This is you're delivering right now, you're delivering. Love it. So, man, thank you again for the time out. We really hope you and the family are staying safe and, just doing your thing. And yeah, man, just we appreciate everything you're doing, man. Definitely. We love you out here, man.
Appreciate it. Love you guys too.
Before you go, though, we ask everyone the same question. What's the last great piece of music you heard? Could be old, could be new, just the last great piece you heard.
Whoa. Hold on a minute. Let me think about this. I think the song that I've been playing, it's a house record that I've been playing on the streams for a while now. Not a hip-hop record. It's a record called Tides, and the artist is Beanfield.
Tides by Beanfield?
Yes, there's that. And I'm going to give you two. Tides by Beanfield. It's a really dope kind of a lo-fi groovy house record.
Mm-hmm. How old is that? Is that new or quite old?
It's within the last couple of years. It's not too old.
Okay.
And then I'm going to give this one away. Hold on a minute. There's an artist by the name of Flora Purim, Purim.
Okay.
And the song is called Overture.
Overture. Okay. The stuff you're dropping on them sessions, it's so eclectic. I don't even need to check who it is because I was like listening to it at that time. So yeah, I like this. I'm going to check those guys out. Definitely just.
Yeah, and the Flora Purim record has actually become one of the staples of my streams. Like every time I jump on, people don't know the name of it, but they're like people, they don't know the name, but they're like, yo, play that one song that has the singing.
Yeah.
That they always describe it. So it's become a favorite. And if you listen to it, it's good at its regular speed, but it's so much better when you slow it down.
Oh man.
See, definitely look that record up. It's really dope.
Yeah, man, definitely. Thank you, Just Man. Definitely. Blessing us all the time, mate. Wicked.
Likewise.
Thank you, man. So yes, hopefully check you soon. And yeah, good luck with everything. Just stay safe, bro.
Likewise.
Thank you, man. Peace.
Later. Yes, you're rocking with the best. This is the one and only Just Blaze. Right now, you're checking out the Crate 808 podcast. Remember to hit up crate808.com, like, comment, subscribe, and all of that. Peace.
Well, there you go. Just Blaze in the house. Wowee. Yes, I thought he delivered. I wanted a Geek Out session, kind of got the Geek Out session. And I know out of there were so many questions we could have asked. And I know you wanted to hear the Jay-Z stuff and the Eminem stuff and the Kanye stuff. But still, man, I really enjoyed that. I enjoyed the insight he was bringing to his creative process. And yeah, we had a certain amount of time with him and bang, we just let it go. So hopefully you guys enjoyed that. Please review, please share, subscribe, all that good stuff, and just follow us everywhere on socials, man. Basically, your port of call is crate808.com. Go on there, check us out, and you'll see all of our other interviews with the likes of Prince Paul and DJ Premier and Pharaoh Monch and blah, 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 as well as debates over 90s classics. So, hope you guys are good. Hope you're staying home. Hope you're staying safe and washing those hands. And right now, I'm going to watch some Transformers or do I listen to Just Blaze? Actually, you know what? I might just do both. I'm going to watch Transformers and listen to Just Blaze. Right. Boom. See you later. Brat.